So the Premier League is starting on Friday. Today we're going to rank every single Premier League team. We're going to predict the entire table, starting off from relegation all the way to the champion. So let's get right into it. My first three relegation candidates, I think these teams are for sure locks to get relegated. Ipswich Town, Southampton, and Nottingham Forest. I think these three teams are going to get relegated. I think Ipswich Town, I don't really have much to explain there. You look at a team like Burnley last year with Company, two very young managers that, want to bring their style of play into the Prem. It's a nice, cute story. I love Ipswich Town. I love McKenna as a manager. I don't think he's going to be able to play. I think he's going to try playing the way he played in the championship with Ipswich Town. They just don't have enough quality. They haven't spent that much money. Usually teams that stay up, they spend a lot. They spent a shit ton of money. We're talking about like Nottingham Forest a couple years ago. Last year, obviously, the three that went up went down. I mean, there you have it.
I don't know. Ipswich Town at 20 seems like a bit low for me. I think, honestly, you were hyping up McKenna all summer. Like, you wanted United to sign McKenna. But yeah, Ipswich, I think, has a really solid team. Also, McKenna has a great mind to manage. I think they're going to go really good places this season.
You couldn't even name me two players from Ipswich Town. I almost said $100K to the charity of your choice if you can name me two Ipswich Town players. I can only name one. Leave Davis.
Next question.
Purely based on narratives and vibes, you gotta respect. You gotta put your hands up and sometimes say, this is the level of sports media we're at.
But let me talk about my relegation teams. I mean, I definitely agree. Southampton and Nottingham Forest are going down. Southampton, for sure, they are so shit. So I had Southampton 20th. I think they're the worst team in the league by a wide margin. Didn't make any signings to impress me. Bournemouth losing Solanke, which is half their production. They don't have any gunmen. They don't have anybody up front. They're going to finish 19th. Nottingham Forest has a major regression this season. I think they go 18th. I think Alonga is not the player that he showed for a few weeks last season. I think they're going to do a lot worse. And I think also not having like Luton Town, Burnley, all these teams that got beat up on last season, not having those is going to mean it's going to be more competitive in relegation. But still, Nottingham Forest, 18th, they go down.
I'll tell you which ones I agree with and which ones I don't agree with. Southampton I think it's the same thing with Ipswich Town. They're going to go in there, do this like woke gimmick where they're like, let's play 3-5-2 with overlapping fullbacks and inverting Chaquistas and shit. And then they're going to get dunked on by a back post fucking Solanke header in Spurs. They're going to do a freaking Obito celebration or some shit. That's my least favorite gimmick is when championship teams go up, no ego. Instead of sitting back, playing a low block, get the ball up to your big striker, and so they start playing tiki-taka and shit like that. You're not himsters. Get the fuck out of here. But moving on to the lower table, David, who do you have from your 17 to 11? Let me hear that.
All right, so I had Leicester City 17th. They had an identity going in, but losing Maresca means that they're gonna. I don't know if Vardy's still playing for them.
How do you not know that?
Is he still playing for them? It's not 2016. He is 42 years old, bro. He cannot play top level football. After that, it gets kind of just a mix of teams. Everybody's going to be around like the 36 to 42 points at this. Wolves, horrid. They didn't sign anybody. They got rid of their best defender to West Ham, Max Kilman. I had Ipswich 15th. I might have to revise that if I look at their roster again. Brentford 14th. This, honestly, Brentford depended completely on if Tony stays because he goes to Saudi, but I mean, there's no betting in Saudi Arabia, so I don't know if Tony's going to fit in there.
Also, no white woman. There's no snow bunnies there, bro. He's not going Saudi.
And then 13th, Brighton, because I think De Zerbi leaving. Honestly, we saw the regression last season, but losing the manager who represented that, Brighton's going to have a huge regression. They could finish as low as 16th, but I still think they have the talent all around to stay in that kind of like 13 to 11 range. Everton 12, I don't think they have the talent for it, but I think they have the funniest manager in the league, so I just put them high. No, but they do have a solid squad. I think not selling Branthwaite probably makes their season so much easier. They won't have to worry about defense nearly as much. And he's going to improve so much as a player. He's a star in the making. I think they're going to have a really solid defense, finish 12th. And 11, I was iffy on Crystal Palace finishing 11th at first, but they still have Mateta. They still have Eberechieze. They have a lot of talent around, and their manager is phenomenal. We saw at the end of last season, basically dragged them up to the top 10. Losing Elise, obviously, huge loss, but I think they're in a really solid position to finish 11th next year.
Yeah, he raw dogged United. I got front row seats that pounding, BBL freaking pounding, bro. Blake Griffin. Shout out to Stephen A. Smith, David Lopez, who was on crack. Bro, what is this, fam? Bro, first things first, Ipswich Town. I know you're not serious right now. Ipswich Town at 15th would be one of the greatest modern Premier League results of all, in the Premier League history. Seriously, I'm not even fucking joking with you. This is on the level of Wolves finishing 7th a couple years ago. This is on the level of, I'm baffled. I'm honestly baffled to say the very least. Like, Ipswich Town are not finishing. If they do not get relegated, which is a strong possibility because McKenna is a great manager. I don't think it's even on the cards, but they're 17th, and it's squeaking it out, getting points against relegation team. They are not finishing above a team like Wolves or Leicester City. Like, come on. Anyways, you look, I mean, Leicester City, I agree with. I think, or I don't know, I'm kind of iffy on them because, you know, they just lost Enzo Maresca. Let me just list off mine. I have Leicester, I have Everton, I have Brentford at 15, Fulham at 14, Bournemouth at 13, 12 Wolves, and 11 Brighton. To explain real quick, I'll just go down real quick. I think Bournemouth are actually going to surprise you. They still have Enes Ünal. I think he's going to, in the position that Solanke was in, I think he can still bag the goals.
A gunman who scored 2 goals in the Prem last season. Come on. Like, are we talking serious here?
Like, checkmate, bro. You checkmate. Look, I was on the 7th grade debate team for a reason, bro. Because, all right, Dominic Solanke, I want you to tell me how many goals he had before his breakout season last year.
I would say 7 goals in the Prem. 7 goals in the Prem the season before.
So I don't know how much he had last season, but right now with those 20, bro, he has 39 goals in 108 Premier League appearances, something like that. You know, fucking stat check me, fucking Wojak. Actually, he actually has 45 goal contributions, you know, whatever. But he has a very low number. There's such thing in football called late bloomers. I think Enes Ünal has a ton, not potential, but he has a ton of quality. And I think Bournemouth, he just slot him in. But enough about Bournemouth. They can't even fill enough people to fucking fill out half the UF stadium, so I don't give a shit. I think Everton that high is quite honestly, it's blasphemy, bro. First thing first, they're gonna start off with a points deduction, bro. These guys they have the feds on them.
I completely forgot about the points deduction. I did not remember that they're in the middle of a scandal right now, so you're gonna have to forgive me on that one.
There's the fucking feds on their ass, and you're talking about they're gonna finish 12th. Secondly, Sean Dyche is not a good mid-table manager. He is a good get you out of relegation, keep you in that. He's a great floor raiser. Awful ceiling. Let's keep it straight.
I did think they had some quality. They did sell Onana, but I mean, the way Everton plays is they have an identity, and having that in the Prem as a bottom 10 team is just about half the battle. And they know what they play. Literally, that's it. Knowing the way you play, having that low block set up every single match, that's gonna win you at least 10 draws against shitty teams. You are getting yourself somewhere just by having an identity. However, if they do get a points deduction, they'd probably be in the relegation zone. I completely forgot about that scandal.
No, I love Sean Dyche. I love, again, managers. I personally am very keen to managers who know their identity. They're not trying to be someone they're not. They don't appeal to the woke crowd. They instead just say, get the fucking ball up top and just go out there. But I think saying Everton are going to finish closer to mid-table than relegation is complete blasphemy, bro. It's put $100 on it right now. Shout out to Hard Rock fucking sports bet. Somebody put that on.
Do not shout out Hard Rock. Do not shout, bro. They take my money. They don't give me any money, bro. They take it.
Shout out Flip. I'll put 100k coins on that shit. All right, so moving on. So we have the mid table. I'm gonna have 10, 9, 8. First things first, I got Crystal Palace finishing 10th. Now let me say this: I was very close to putting Crystal Palace in the 8th or the 7th slot. I think they are going to be the Premier League breakout team next season. I think they're going to get even more results like last season that we saw that just surprised everybody. United 4-0, winning 8, 9 games unbeaten. I think we're going to see a lot more of that from Crystal Palace. But of course, losing Elise, losing the nonchalant gimmick, losing the aura, it's tough, Then, so 9, I have Chelsea. We can talk about that in a second. But number 8, I have Newcastle. Newcastle is another team that I also wanted to put higher, but dude, they lost more than they added. They just sold this minty dude. I thought he was gonna be a beast. Eddie Howe, I think he has 1 foot in the England door, and then also I think the injuries are also gonna catch up to them. A lot of things you have to realize is that these teams, injuries don't just go away after a year. It's a recurring thing for a reason. Either it's the medical team, the manager style, the training style, and the actual players, the recruitment. So I think Newcastle at 8, Chelsea at 9.
I honestly tend to really agree with you there. I really like Crystal Palace being higher than where I put them at 11. I think they could be a lot higher. I mean, we saw the tournament that way he had. I mean, he was phenomenal in the Euros. I mean, as an England starter, if he's not moving to another club, he's going to be phenomenal for Crystal Palace. I think that's solid there. And I think it's really hilarious that we agreed on Chelsea number 9 because, I mean, I think with all the signings they've made, they're still dog shit. I mean, they are horrendous. I mean, Maresca has not shown me anything in terms of an identity, in terms of a sort of passion where this team is leading. And I think that manager carousel, it eventually does catch up to you. It worked for 10 years for Chelsea, so good for them. But I just don't think they have the talent now.
If you don't rate this Chelsea project, you're clearly jealous.
You're just jealous. If you don't rate, I think it's so dumb the way Chelsea fans approach it. Oh, yeah, let's have a squad of 45 players. It'll be fine. No, the depth chart is fine. Reece James just got injured again. Cole Palmer, there's not a chance in hell he has another 20 goals, 10 assists Premier League season. Not a chance he does that again. He's a phenomenal player, don't get me wrong, but he's not dropping 20 and 10 in the Prem again, or 40 in all comps.
I think that's the only guarantee.
I don't think so. I think he had 12 pens last season. I don't think that's feasible to ask for season in and season out. Either way, they still have Raheem Sterling on the books. They still have a lot of, they have Michaela Mudryk on the books. Nani Madueke has not shown me anything as a player. Enzo Fernandez is in the middle of a scandal and just got promoted to vice captain. I mean, their team is in shambles. They could finish 11th and I wouldn't be surprised one bit. I mean, those results last season where they lose to Bournemouth, lose to whoever, like it was surprising still to an extent last season. This year, I'm not even surprised whatever happens with Chelsea. They are literally a rotating wheel of results.
I want to touch on the Chelsea thing real quick because I don't think enough is being spoken about Chelsea right now. I think they're easily the most overrated team in the entire league by the media, everyone. It's like ambition. Yeah, they have a lot of ambition, but it's like the ambition to get back with their high school ex who's had 20 bodies since you last worked with her. You know, it doesn't really. What are you really working towards? You know, it's working towards disaster. So talking about Chelsea real quick, I think Chelsea, we can agree, they're going to finish 9th.
And at 8, you said you had Newcastle, right? Well, I think I had Newcastle at 7, so I think that'll lead me into my next 4. I think they are going to be regressing season by season, especially if Eddie Howe takes the England job, but I don't think that'll happen this year. For me, my next 3, so I had West Ham at 7 because I think they've made a lot of great signings this summer. Just the kind of the history of it, the last 3 seasons, I feel like they finished in that kind of close to the top 5, 6, 7 spots, but not really breaking in. They're going to go back to the Conference League spots. I think they have a really solid team. Kilman from Wolves is actually a really solid defender, and I think that's what they were kind of lacking. They have the attacking talent, Kudus, Paqueta, if he's not in the middle of a betting scandal. Oh, they just signed Fulkrug from Dortmund. They have a lot of good players on this team. Just looking through, still have Souček, Alvarez. They just signed Crescencio Somerville, who was the championship player of the season. They have a lot of great pieces. They could finish 6th, which leads me into my next. I had Manchester United at 6. I think they are going to be a train wreck this season compared to where people are, or at least their fans are hyping them up to be. Euro's injured for the first 2 months. Lissandro, injury merchant. Very solid player, but very prone to injuries. Unless Garnacho takes a gigantic leap, which he showed in the Community Shield, he's very good. But unless he takes that enormous, like Ronaldo level leap, I don't see him giving the production they need. Rashford looked absolutely horrendous at points in that Community Shield, and I don't think he's going to keep growing as a player. Progression isn't linear. Rashford's not going to become Mbappe at some point. And I had Aston Villa number 5. They just somehow have 100 million every single transfer window, and they use it this year. They barely got rid of anybody. They signed Onana. They have just all the pieces they need to compete at the top level in the Premier League. And I think they will. I think they'll be 5th. Honestly, I was budging with putting them top 4, but I want to hear who you have in these 7, 6, 5 spots.
Now, obviously, we have the West Ham, Newcastle. So I'll say my 7, 6, and 5, where Newcastle, I have Tottenham Hotspur, and I have Manchester United.
I don't agree with Tottenham. Just off the jump, I think Tottenham's way better than a 6th place team.
The thing is with all these predictions, and this will be a common theme with this, I think the Ainge style of play is a beautiful style. I think adding Solanke to that will be amazing. But again, like I'm going off the notion here that when you play a high pressing style where you play 90 minutes, and bro, the Prem games are like 110 minutes long now. They're fucking NFL games, you know?
They did boost the games hella. I don't know if I have an issue with it because we saw at the World Cup how much people enjoyed like those actual like +9 minutes. I mean, it's gonna drain the players, and I think injuries followed along. Last season we saw like the injuries just came. That affects Tottenham a lot because if you check their squad, it's super thin. Like they barely have players to fill in spots.
That's what I'm saying. So I think Tottenham are going to finish 6th just based on the fact that I think they have a great team. I think on paper, the starting 11 for Tottenham is the 3rd best team in the league. I genuinely think that. The 3rd best team in the league, I don't think they'll get to that point. I wouldn't even be surprised if the Tottenham 11, we never see them play. We see them play like 5 games, and everyone's like, oh, this is amazing. Ainge's style of play is so nuts, bro.
It's gonna be the same thing as last season, bro. They go 6-0 in their first few games, and then the injuries and the squad rotation, Champions League, it does play a toll.
Yep. Van de Ven's hamstrings explode, Madison's fucking ankle. But before we move on, let's talk real quick about Manchester United because we skimmed over them, right? You have them at 6, I have them at 5. I think out of all the teams, the theme here is just like unpredictable. I think United are easily the most unpredictable team in the league right now. I mean, there is a chance that Xerxes comes into that team for United and everything starts clicking. And I'm not even joking here. It might sound like a biased United fan, but I'm not joking, right? We have been missing a striker who can link up play since Marsh went on that tear, the NHS tear, and you know, actually teared his fucking ACLs. You know,
the only problem you're worried about is if he becomes a Havertz, where he doesn't really, like, Ten Hag doesn't define his role, and you just kind of see him drift around half the game, doesn't get any goal contributions. Like, that's what you're worried about with that kind of player. Like, at the beginning of the season, if you wanted to say the one link-up player who I'd want my team to sign, it's Xerxes. Like, he's phenomenal. Again, it's all just a matter of coaching for United because they have all the talent in the world if they were coached by a competent manager.
I'm not the biggest Ten Hag guy. That's why I have him at 5th. I think United will finish 5th, right? And I think that if we're going off everything, I think they're going to win the Europa League for this reason. I think you give Ten Hag 3 years in a style of play, right? You give him actually 3 years to develop this. You have players that he's brought from, so Mazarawi coming in, Dalit coming in. You have an actual, if you get some midfield signings in there, dude, there is a real possibility out there that I don't think the rest of the Premier League fans are really, I don't know for what reason, they're not acknowledging here, is that Ahmad on the right and Garnacho on the left could both explode this season. Like, these are players that are legitimately ready to go out there and get you 20 goals and assists each. And I'm not joking, this might sound fucking crazy, but I'm sure it was crazy when Vinicius was Somali and everyone was saying, oh, he's gonna drop 30 goals and assists, and then all of a sudden he's the Ballon d'Or, you know? I'm not saying they're gonna win the Ballon d'Or, but I'm saying you look at the patterns, look at the way they're playing. Just really look at United right now. If they stay healthy, which is a big if, I think they're going to finish in the top 4. But to play it safe, I'm gonna put them at 5th. I think United, honestly, I'll say this thing. United will finish 5th, but they're the most underrated team in the entire Premier League this season.
I mean, if you saw the face I was making during that entire discussion, I actually was just like, when your friend says something across the classroom, but the teacher said whoever laughs next is getting sent out. I was just, although I do think the talent is there, I just don't think Ten Hag is competent whatsoever. I mean, we'll see how the season plays out. He's either going to be playing liquid footy and they're going to be in first until Christmas, or he'll be on the chopping block by October. We'll see how it plays out, but we got to move forward to lead into my top 4. I do have Tottenham at number 3, but before that, Liverpool number 4. I think especially because they're rumored to sell Carvalho, which is like their best midfield prospect. I don't think they've made any signings of real consequence. I thought FSG was going to invest in Liverpool's project, but he hasn't. That group is it's just meaty, bro. I don't like the Liverpool squad whatsoever. I think Van Dijk, he's only getting older. He can't use his aura to defend forever. We saw it last season. His aura is declining rapidly. In the Euros, he looked very, very shaky. Salah, same thing. He continues to regress. He's almost 34 now. They lost their chance to sell. Trent's 1 foot out the door. I don't care what any Liverpool fan says. He's 1 foot out the door to Madrid by next year. And I just think Liverpool regress a ton. They still get top 4, but they regress a ton. Tottenham makes the jump. Let's just bang these 2 out, because I think everything that needs to be said about Tottenham has been said, so we can really move into the juicy part. I have Arsenal finish 2nd, which leaves just one team at the top of the totem pole, which is I think the last time they'll do it under the Pep administration. Manchester City wins the Premier League, in my opinion. It's just a last hurrah. De Bruyne's last go at it. Haaland's going to come back as a robot this season again. I think he's finally locked in, but I just don't see Arsenal winning the Premier League without a true 9. They just don't have it yet, and I don't think this is their year. I think next year is actually their year. I know we say it every season, but next year is Arsenal's year.
I have Arsenal winning the Premier League this season. I have them finishing 1st place. I have them beating out City, and I will say this, I don't think it would genuinely be close. And I know this sounds crazy, but once again, we spoke about this recently. So any person that thinks that Arsenal aren't going to win the Premier League, or that there's no chance they win it by a large margin, please look at 2021 Liverpool. They randomly just beat City by 30 points. Nobody expected that shit, right? Nobody expected that, and there's a reason why. Pep says it best. It's the hardest thing to do in football is not to win the title. The hardest thing is to keep on winning the title, you know? I watched the City versus United Community Shield game, right? And let's keep it a buck. I know it's a one-off game, and Ten Hag loves his one-off games. United completely outplayed City. I mean, I look at Haaland, bro. Like, you're saying he's a robot? Yeah, he's a robot because he can't fucking move left or right. You know, he moves like an NPC. I just look at City. There is a lack of intensity, whether it's in the midfield, whether it's from the technicality from the wingers, besides players like Doku, of course, and even Savinho played good as well. I think Arsenal this year, they're building up towards, like, they're actually edging us until they explode all over us, bro. I'm not even joking. Like,
they are going to drop points from the same things they dropped points last season in those big games. Saka's not a true 9. He's not a 9 at all, honestly. Havertz, not a true 9. Jesus, not a real 9. Martinelli, not a 9. They don't have a 9 on their roster. I mean, Nketiah's gone, right? I mean, they don't have Balogun still out in Europe. They could have used him as a 9. They never took the chance to sign Vlahovic. They didn't bring in Osimhen. Every time they've been linked to the striker, I think Arteta just looks himself in the mirror, puts on more hair gel, and says, "You know what? We are fine. We are fine with Jesus." Like, I don't get what their vision is. Every other hole has been filled in this project. Marino, great signing. Calafiori, great signing. Their defense is going to be unstoppable this season. It's going to be a fantastic team to watch. But when it gets to that final third, there's going to be teams, there are good enough teams in this Premier League that you just can't break down that block with Gabriel Jesus and Martinelli. They don't have a striker. They need a striker. If they had Erling Haaland, I think they'd win the league with 105 points. I'm not even kidding. If they had a true 9. But they don't. And I still think that's going to hold them back.
Funny how City fans consume football, right? Because 5 years ago, when we were saying the same thing about City, they were saying, "Oh, no, Pep's system doesn't work with the 9. We need Gabriel Jesus playing as the 5th center back in order to attack the teams." if we're talking about Arsenal winning the Champions League or any major cup right now, then I am 100% with you. Arsenal will not win the Champions League until they start an out-and-out 9. Why? Because to start an out-and-out 9, that's a guy, there's a reason why City added Holland and instantly won the treble. The Premier League isn't about who scores the most goals. The Premier League is about one thing, first things first, defense wins championships. It's about who can defend. But secondly, it's about the long, grueling results. When you go down 2-2 and when you're up 2-0 and then the team ties it up 2-2, who is ready to step up? When you're down 2-0 against Aston Villa on the last day of the season, who is ready to swing in a back post cross? This is what it's really about. I think the reason that Arsenal are going to win the Premier League this season is because they have seen it fucking all, bro. They have gone 2 years in a row demoralizingly losing to City when they've been in the lead both times. They haven't blown the lead per se, but they've lost it twice. They've lost it, slip out their hands. I think if Arsenal this year, if the Premier League for whatever reason starts slipping away from them, they're going to say this is the same exact thing that happens. We're ready now. I'm sorry, it's not about having a striker. You're not going to bang the goals. By the way, Trossard. You didn't mention Saka. You didn't even mention that Trossard at all. The Trossard is a great finisher. Saka. You have Martinelli was injured last year. He can come back this year. Havertz. The less I say, the better. But still. It's Arsenal. The issue with them isn't the amount of goals they bang in; it's mentality. When it's 2-0, or when Southampton get that early goal, 1-0 away in the 35th match week of the season, who can step up? I think now they have playmakers, they have a solid defense, they have the right mentality, they have a great goalkeeper, they have an amazing manager. I think Arsenal, to finish off my glaze, will win the Premier League this season.
So the last thing I'll say on it, just to wrap this whole thing up, look, they have all that. They have a phenomenal squad, a great manager, but like you said, it's a mentality thing. And I think those kind of that Amazon video documentary on them, when you just see how self-serious Arteta is, they kind of manufacture this feeling of we've seen it all. We're gonna beat through it. We're not gonna let that happen to us again. But they did it the same thing last season. They told us, we're not gonna let this happen to us again. They said the exact same thing, and the exact same thing happened. I think unless they run away with it like Liverpool did, if it's a close, they just crumble under that pressure. They can't keep up with fixture congestion like City have. That's something we know. If City brings in 1 or 2 more players in terms of depth, if we don't get rid of Alvarez, which I really hope we don't, even though he's a meaty player, it's kind of a depth thing at this point. He knows the system too. Just in general, we have the mentality. Manchester City. Putting my hands up, I am a Manchester City fan, but I do think Arsenal just don't have the mentality. The only way I see them winning the Premier League is if Manchester City takes themselves out, and I don't think that happens this season. Put our hands up. It's in God's hands now.
It's in God's hands. Those are our 2 tables for this Premier League season. I got Manchester United winning the Prem, and David has Brentford winning the Premier League. We'll see you guys in the next one.